Hi everyone, Al the Psych. Here for part two of my video on object attachment within HD and CBSD, okay, or compulsive buying shopping disorder. So I went over a lot of information on the first video, part one, and I'm gonna see if I can put this to an end relatively quickly. There's just so much information about it. Anyway, so let's continue. This section is subtitled Aspects of Self Related to Possessions. So Roster noted that a hyper-attachment to objects can serve to be a source of self-identity, as well as objects serving as memory cues of past events. So he describes how client Gloria, how her now grown daughter was, when she was young, they were heavily involved together in Girl Scouts. Okay, so Gloria hoarded hundreds of children's books and Girl Scout craft kits, and which were said to be the key to her happy memories of her time with her daughter, and which fortified her continuing identity as a mother. So it's interesting that, you know, he makes a point of saying that Gloria hoarded hundreds of children's books. You can see that, you know, it's nice to be able to have an object that will be a trigger of good memories. On the other hand, having hundreds of them takes you way down on the continuum, okay, when you have HD. Okay, now Roster discusses Deborah, a recently widowed former librarian who was noted to particularly have difficulty discarding her books, reflecting her background as a librarian. And, you know, the component of that identity which reflects her reverence for knowledge. Now, okay, so I think it's pretty common to associate what you do with who you are to some degree. I mean, that's part of us. And maybe I'm justifying this because, you know, as a psychologist, I've saved several books on about psychology. You know, I have these books from back when I was in school, and I know my dad, when he was alive, he was in construction, general contractor. He saved a lot of tools. After he retired, he still had a lot of old tools that I'm sure, you know, triggered memories for him. So nothing unusual about that. I think what's the important question I have is, okay, to what extent is my identity connected to my job, and to what number of items, you know, must I save? Am I saving so many items to the point of it being problematic? You know, we talked about the other person, Gloria, you know, saving hundreds of children's books, things like that. So I think, again, we look at this, in my mind, on a continuum. You know, yeah, sure, we save some objects, we save transitional objects, we have objects that are triggers to remind us of some, you know, some good times, things like that. But at what point does it get to be so excessive that now we're talking about, you know, hoarding disorder? Okay, let's go on with the notes. Now, the link between past self and object attachment and hoarding has been consistently noted, and Charrier and Ponner described how in hoarding, objects impart the same emotions from the past as when you physically hold something. Um, and if we want to get into an ugly example, we can also say this about like serial killers. They'll have their trophies, and they'll revisit their trophies because those trophies will then trigger, the same, or at least some emotions and feelings and thrills related to their, heinous crimes. So I don't know why I threw that in there, but it kind of makes sense to me. Now, indeed, Yap and Grisham suggest that imbuing value to an object through its links with autobiographical memories may be a significant barrier to treatment. Okay. King and colleagues noted that items served to remind individuals of important attachments with others, giving a sense of warmth and closeness. However, when there had been difficult unresolved issues in the relationships, with grief being apparent, the sense of non-resolution prevented discarding of the items. This kind of sounds like a catch-22. It's like they can't let it go of them because they gave me some warmth and closeness, or I can't let go of them because things are, unresolved. So in either case, you're holding on to everything then. Okay, conclusion. Now, overall, the authors suggest that dysfunctional object attachment in HD and CBSD is closely connected to individualistic self-concept and also to the self in relationship to others. So three themes are apparent here. First, an underdeveloped, ambivalent, or discrepant self-concept may serve as a vulnerability for dysfunctional object attachment behavior. Okay, that's number one. Okay. Second, in HD, there appears to be a sense of a fusion between self and objects, such that objects at their extreme become one's self-identity, or even physical extensions of self and others. And third, in HD, objects serve as places of self through time, reminders of past relationships and events and promises of future selves. So, the authors believe that it's crucial to examine whether addressing fortifying the self, discriminating between self and stuff, and helping the individual expand recognition of relationships without items will improve the treatment of these disorders where object attachment is a central feature. So a lot of research still to be done. I think I should also add, just my take on it. And I mentioned it several times in the videos, but I think we do need to look at this. I like to speak in terms of a continuum because I think we all like to have little transition object that help. Maybe in the case of bereavement, for instance, or a transitional object when somebody might be moving away. You hold on to a little item, it triggers, fond memory. So that's not unusual. So I want to make sure that, at least from my perspective, then we talk about having objects, and we talk about having memories with these objects. We talk about how they trigger maybe pleasant memories for us. Okay, not unusual. Sounds like a pretty human behavior to me. I think where we can get into an issue is then as we move way down on the continuum where we start taking so many things that now it becomes problematic. I think one of the references maybe in the part one was, where one of the researchers was talking about how people would hoard old newspapers that are buried away in the corner of the house somewhere, something like that. A little different than maybe holding on to transitional objects or items that will trigger, a fond memory. So, okay, a lot of information I've thrown your way. You can see that this is, hoarding disorder and the compulsive buying, shopping disorder are, we're still getting a lot of information. We're still finding out a lot about them and how they impact people and why. Um, so if you're watching this, I'd be curious in what you think about the subject, because there's just so much more out there that I think we have to find out. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks.